How's it going, everybody? So today I'm going to show you how to add an amp, a sound amp, to your Game Boy Color. This basically applies to the other Game Boys as well. Of course, the wiring is going to be a little bit different, but the amp, the same amp can still be used regardless. So I've already taken this one apart. As you can see, I've disconnected the screen ribbon, removed the power switches plastic, and I've already mounted the amp right there, as you can see, right in the middle. I used some double-sided tape, and then I also added a little bit of black electrical tape underneath the contact so it doesn't short out onto anything. So first we're going to start by removing our main board that we have here. And what you're going to want to do is start by prepping the points that you're going to be using. So you're going to want to take some flux, and you're going to want to add it on some points we're going to use. So we're going to be using the positive and the negative right here for the speaker. And you're going to use the A plus and the A minus. Those are for the audio channels. You're going to skip the SD, which is shut down. You're going to go to the VIN, which is your positive, and the ground right here. Now, if you can see clearly, it's a 2.5 watt Class D amp. This is a PAM 8302A. It's a Adafruit amp that's used normally in Raspberry Pi Game Boys. And this one is going to be used for our Game Boy Color. And this is actually a clone of the original. So it will do exactly the same. There's no difference in quality. All right, let me just stabilize that. Now it's time to prep our points after applying our flux. And I'm going to tin my iron just real quick. And with that already, we're going to start wiring up. So I'm going to go ahead and strip some wire real quick, and I'll be back in a second. So what I also need to do is we do need to undo the speaker right here. So you can start by kind of moving it around. And if you want, you can also use some like pliers or tweezers. You can just heat up that pad. Lift out the wire gently, don't force it out. And then this will get some new wire on it eventually, because obviously the location of it is further than where it is stock, since the amp is going to be on the other side. So we won't need that orange wire anymore. But we will use this speaker still in the end. So what I'm going to do is, since it's orientated like that, we're going to flip over the board, and we are going to start wiring up a couple of the points right here. So I'm going to start on this left side where it says A plus and A minus. So I have tinned up one side of the wire, and we're just going to get that. And then get the A plus. And I find it best if you can find a good way to kind of snake the wiring underneath. So if you can get it to go underneath the board, you can come around and go over down to here. So obviously we're not going to need all too much wiring, so we do need to trim it. So then you can just take your cutters, your flush cutters, and we'll get it about right there. And then now we need to just strip the ends of this and solder it in. As you can see now, I have run those wires from A+ and A- over to the side and to their corresponding points at the bottom. And so next we need to run our speaker wire. So we do need to have them going from right here, the positive and the ground, the negative, and we're going to run it to our speaker, which was orientated like that. So what I want to do first is, actually let's just get that in place in the same spot that the others were. Basically, we're going to run them all along that side of that one. We're going to run these along the same area that we did on the other. Right here. And then we're also going to add just a tiny bit of super glue just to keep these wires together, basically. And I'm going to let that dry before I continue. So it's dry. Now it's time to solder them down. So I'm doing this kind of a quick and dirty method. I'm not necessarily trying to have it completely wire art and nice and neat. This is just simply purely for the video so I can quickly show you how to do this. And the last two things we're going to need to do are for our positive and our ground. So we're going to grab positive and ground from the opposite side here. Positive will be from where you see these 4 points. It's going to be that upper first point right here. I'm going to grab my ground from the ground of this capacitor. You can grab it from here. You can grab it from another point on the board. It doesn't really matter. It's just with it already right there, it kind of just makes it that much easier for me. So because this is a little bit more of a stretch to get around this way, and I'm also going to have my wires go that direction, now we're going to need to wire up to here first. So with that said, I'm going to prep these points and make sure that there is plenty of solder to work with. And there we go. It doesn't matter if you get a little extra solder on to that square right there, because that is also ground. but I would like. So I have to continue this. The video got cut off, so my apologies. But after we prepped the 2 points right here, I'm running a point from the ground here for the amp, and this topmost point right here at the bottom for our positive. And so what I'm trying to do now is wire those up. So the bottom one right here is what we were working with right before the video got caught up. And I wanted to have them kind of run along the side, so you have enough room to work with. So I'm gonna snip it right there. And now, I don't usually like to do this in terms of burning the insulation, but with the amount of room I have to work with right now and the way my wire strippers have been working out, this is going to be a little bit more easy for me. Like I said, it's not ideal. Will it work? Absolutely. So this is going to be for our positive. And our negative is going to go right under there. So then I'm going to also cut it off right there. Sometimes it's easier if you grab like a pair of like tweezers or flush cutters and you kind of just work it in. Especially if you're trying to be a little bit neater about everything. Using your fingers is not ideal. And right, so that is hooked up. And now on your amp, you can see there's a potentiometer right there. That's going to control your volume, at least your max limit. So getting this all back into here should go pretty easy, since we did work with the space that we did have. And if you need to, you can always push the wires down the side. It's up to you, whatever you need to do to make it work. And what I'm going to do is quickly not, you know what, actually, it would be a good idea just to have one, so when you're closing it up, it's not moving around too much. You know what, I think I have the wrong bit on here. Alright, so now that that's on, we're going to throw our cover on, see where our levels are at the moment, and then we'll adjust the potentiometer from there. But first, gotta put that screen ribbon back in. You don't have to, but make it easier for testing so you know where you're at. And let's see where we're at on our volume. So I like to max it out first so I can set the limit, basically. And since I forgot my switch, all right, so let me get a gain real quick. That is pretty loud already, so I might have pre-adjusted this one and not even thought about it, but it's okay. So this is a Pokemon Gold. Label's missing. It's okay. So this one is actually already pretty loud, but what you can do, so this one actually, I've done this several times already, so I know where the maximum limit is, and this one is pretty much already at that point. So I'm not going to really be adjusting this one, but I can show you exactly at least where to adjust. So if you look over here, you'll see that potentiometer. You're going to want to turn it clockwise. And you want to turn it just like you would, let's say, on a GameCube potentiometer, or any really. Since it is a variable resistor, you want to only slightly increase it. So you're going to turn that ever so slightly, just like a millimeter. Not very much at all. And every little increase, go back and test it. Even if it means putting it back together and taking a lot of time to do it, you don't want to obviously harm anything, so you want to take your time. And each little increase will gradually make it louder. Now, you may find a point where you've turned it just a little too much and it's gotten quieter. If that's the case, you want to back off, and you want to turn it counterclockwise, because you've obviously either A, reached its limit, or two, it's just not the right setting. Now, the other thing to take into account with these amps is that when you're turning it, you might find a dead spot. So let's say it's getting louder, you turn it, it's getting a little bit louder, and then the next time you turn it, it's no sound at all, or it's almost gone. Then you can try go it a little bit more, but if it does nothing, you need to back off. But 99% of the time, at least in my experience, when you have a dead spot, turn it a little bit more, and generally you'll get to that point where it's ear-bleeding loud and it's just insane. But everybody knows Game Boy Color's one of the quietest handhelds out there. Not like a Game Gear or anything like that. These are just natively quiet. So adding an amp like this is going to be tenfold, a million times louder. It's louder, in my opinion, than the Pro Sound mod. It's just the way to go. So now that we have this all together, we can actually finish putting in our screws. Remember, Phillips head on the inside, tri-wing on the outside. My apologies for getting in the camera so much. It's right in the way. So we'll get our switch in there. Now, another thing to know is sometimes, depending on the location you have the amp, you could hear some noise, but generally speaking, the noise you're going to hear from the amp is going to be because you're maxing it out, which obviously is totally understandable. You can't have it too loud. So unless you want to, but the thing is, once you get into gameplay, you're not going to notice that little bit of noise at all. And before I close this video up, I'm going to explain what that is, really.